My guests today are writer-directors Natalie Mustiata and Alexandre Singh, and the absolutely spectacular medium-length French language film, Two People Exchanging Saliva. Now, Natalie is a writer, curator, and filmmaker. She holds a doctorate in art history and a master's in film from the Graduate Center, CUNY. Now, she is the curator of several exhibitions, including If I Can't Dance to It, It's Not My Revolution, which is Haverford College, and UNREST, Revolt Against Reason. Now, in 2018, she produced Alexandre Singh's richly imaginative short, The Appointment, which played in over 40 film festivals where it won several awards for Best Short Film, as well as co-curated the exhibition, A Gothic Tale at the Legion of Honor Museum in San Francisco. And in 2024, she co-wrote, directed, and produced this medium-length French language film that we're talking about today, Two People Exchanging Saliva. And Alexandre Singh is a Brooklyn-based visual artist, born in Bordeaux, France, and to Indian and French parents. His work is inspired by a love of imaginative storytelling. His work is represented in numerous private and public collections, including the Museum of Modern Art, the Solomon R. Guggenheim Museum, and the Centre National des Arts Plastiques in Paris. Now, in 2019, Alexandre made his debut short film, The Appointment, which premiered at the Legion of Honor Museum, again in San Francisco, as well as his solo exhibition, A Gothic Tale, and then played at Poof Shorts, Louvain, and Bogo Shorts, among many others. Now, their mind-blowing cinematic masterpiece, Two People Exchanging Saliva, takes place in a society where kissing is punishable by death, and people pay for things by receiving slaps to the face. And there's so much more to talk about. So, ladies and gentlemen, let's welcome award-winning writer-directors Natalie Mustiata and Alexandre Singh and their spectacular Two People Exchanging Saliva to the show. Welcome to both of you.
Well,
Thank
thank you
you
so
so
much.
much
We're
for
so happy to be here.
yeah.
Well, I can tell you one thing. I've done so many film interviews this week, but I think we saved the best for last. And where in the world did you get the idea for this film? And would you say it's a bit of dystopian in nature?
You know, it's funny. The idea came about in the most roundabout fashion. We should say, like you said in our intro, we come from the visual arts, and we have, from the minute we met, we've only talked about cinema and how it was a really great desire of ours to make films. And so when we had an opportunity to shoot something, we took it.
Yeah,
So
we were asked by this luxury department store. They were inviting visual artists and performers and musicians to make small interventions during the night at any one of the stores. And they asked us, did we have an idea for a story set in a luxury department store, or anything really?
And so in the Zoom meeting, we started ping-ponging ideas back and forth, which is the way that we work. And we knew that this space is so charged, you know, like a luxury department store. It speaks about money and power and desire and beauty. And we knew we wanted to subvert, you know, the sort of rules and the economy.
Make it our own, yeah.
And so Alex had this idea that came, you know, almost subconsciously, to set it in a world where people paid for things by being slapped in the face. And as you can imagine, the reaction was a bit of like laughter mixed with nervousness. And our producers told us, you know, it's a loaded idea. Why don't you write the script, and we'll take it from there.
And then shortly afterwards, as we started thinking about this story, Natalie had the idea that as a corollary, in this world, violence is quite normalized, that maybe intimacy should be absent. And what if it was set in a world where people were not allowed to kiss? And so we took these, on the face of it, kind of ridiculous, almost silly premises, and then really thought quite deeply about what a society would look like. And we kind of applied the way human beings behave in our society, their obsessions with class, status, beauty, control, othering other people, the suppression of love and intimacy, the overreach of government, social conformity. And we kind of applied it to these ridiculous rules, to the point where I actually think it feels quite believable.
Well, I mean, at the end of the day, our film, as ridiculous as the premise might sound, was really inspired by a number of news stories that were circulating at the time. One of them was Ron DeSantis had reintroduced the Don't Say Gay law, and we just felt like, are we moving backwards in time? What's happening? You say dystopic, but it's really a reflection of our own society. And then there was the women's movement in Iran, Women Like Freedom, and there were all these young women and men who were getting shot at in the streets for taking off their hijabs, and we just felt like there were so many things in our world that are already absurd that we oftentimes get used to or we accept as reality because as humans, it's a mode of survival.
It's one of the things, because when you're asked to apply to a film festival, they ask you, what is the genre of your film? Is it a Western? Is it a musical? And you're sat there with these kind of checkboxes, and none of them really made sense. One of the checkboxes is science fiction. We were thinking about it. For us, science fiction films are kind of saying, be careful, this is how the world could become. It could become a dystopia.
Whereas we always describe our film as absurdist, because for us, absurdist means this is the way the world already is. You just don't see it.
Yeah.
And so our film is inspired by our own world, by the many absurdities in our own world. And yeah, so it's not far off.
Well, you know what's funny is as silly and as absurd and quirky the storyline actually is, it's the beauty of the cinematography that draws the audience in to accept the storyline is almost normal.
Yeah.
You know,
and I think it's the cinematography and also the way it picks out the characters. We worked with a really amazing cinematographer named Alexandre Singh, and she was amazing because she knew how to work really quickly. We were shooting in the middle of the night between midnight and 6 a.m. So our nights were very short and we had to move very quickly, which was also one of the reasons why we prepared a lot. So we did a visual, like a pre-visualization of the film.
So we went around the entire store and scanned every single part of it with our phones and then built a 3D file.
Which took a very long time. It was very laborious.
And your phone crashes quite a lot when you're trying to scan the whole store. And then we animated the scenes with little marionettes, as it were, in this 3D scene. And we'd have a virtual camera. And with Alexandra, we would build out the shot plan and almost like a pre-visualization of the whole film, so that when we were on set with very limited time and very limited resources, we knew exactly where to put the camera. And so we didn't have to think about that, and we could just really be present with the actresses, because they're the ones who really bring this story to life and really make you believe in a premise that otherwise would be unbelievable. And they really ground the story.
Yeah, it was one of the things that, like, a tonal thing that we were always really like trying to balance, like the balance between the absurdism and the reality, grounding it so that it really did feel like the stakes felt very big for these characters. And there's this one post that we did on Instagram, which is a comparison of our pre-visualization of the shopping montage in the middle of the film with what we actually shot, and it's a 1-to-1. And there are many times in the film where we took inspiration from the moment and we deviated from our plans, especially like everything that's outdoors wasn't planned. We just stole those shots. Oftentimes when we were moving from one location to another, Alex and I were on the subway with Luàna, and I'm actually in that shot. And Alex, I'm like keeping an eye on if there are any police or anyone that might confiscate our camera. And Alex is the one that's shooting, and it's just the three of us. And so a lot of things, were improvised, but a lot was also very, very, very carefully choreographed ahead of time, especially because there are two of us and we need to be on the same page, and we don't have the time to argue on set. So there was a lot of argument beforehand.
Well, I've seen quite a few French short films this year. And the beauty of French cinema is there's always this romance, there's this romantic idea, and the French are known for love, but this film shows what if love was forbidden. And you see that throughout this whole film, and it is just, and like you said earlier, here you have love forbidden, violence is accepted. And when I was watching the film, because I watched this film more than once, and that's pretty good knowing that this film is a bit over 36 minutes long. And so as I was watching it, I would notice all of the scenes where love was a no-no. And it's really, you know, when you watch it, it's a bit disconcerting because it's really bothersome, because love is one of the strongest emotions. And then you tell people not to do that. And, you know, it's kind of like you see certain characters where they've come to the point to where they've suppressed it enough. And then you have others that they're having a very hard time containing it. So I love this push-pull effect within the characters of the film.
Yeah, absolutely. I
There's
mean,
actually something we often say to one another, which is telling someone not to love is like telling them not to breathe. You can't. The government tries to, and societies have tried to, but it's not possible. And that desire will always burst through like a plant rising up out of the ground. And the characters in this story, you have three characters. Petulante, the antagonist, she is squashed. She has stifled that little flame completely. She doesn't believe anymore, but she still feels so much pain because of that.
Well, absolutely.
It shows up on her face.
Yes. Yeah.
I mean, in some ways, our film, in the world of our film, queer love, like being queer, is not a taboo. But being, but like kissing is. So it was our sort of like playful way of speaking about the policing of queer love in our own world, by reversing things, so that, to show the absurdity of what it is to suppress any kind of love. And yeah, I mean, there's, in some ways, our film is, the world that it establishes is very unusual, but the story itself is very classical.
It is. Now, I hope I pronounce her name right. Is it Angine?
Angine, which actually means pain of the heart.
Yeah. When I looked at the meaning, it was basically angina, which is basically a heart cramp due to lack of oxygen. So Angine, I found her character to be very, very interesting because she was never touched by her husband. She shopped frequently. And I kept thinking about the shopping aspect because I thought, okay, the slaps to the face was not the type of human touch she wanted, but that's all she was allowed, so she took it.
Exactly. Yeah. We like the idea that they subvert this violent, this both violent and banal act in this world, and they make it erotic.
And that's what Petulante is observing. She can see the sexual tension. That's what's perverse to her. They've taken an ordinary thing and made it erotic and sensual. And
I also love the idea of taking something that's negative and making it a positive. And, in some ways, like we have these, we have this love triangle, but we also have these three characters from three different generations that choose to go down very different paths in terms of their relationship to the absurdity of this world. And, Petulante is so rigid that she's unable, she suppresses her own desires to the point of destruction. Whereas, Angine is so comfortable. She's really like a symbol of the bourgeois class. She's very comfortable. So it's hard for her to rebel against this society, but she knows it's wrong. And at a certain point, she does fight back. And then there's Malaise, who's so young that like so many, like the people who protest in the street, it's often the students at colleges. It's often the 18-year-olds who are outraged, rightfully so, and fight back. And so we love this idea of like these three strong women who are responding in very different ways to this world.
Well, with Petulance, was she really jealous, or was she more of acting like the anti-kissing police?
Well, I would say that
a little both,
a little bit of both. But I think for Petulance, all that she has left is the rules. All that she has left is her position in the store. And this is like someone saying that the rules don't matter, but she's devoted her life to the rules. So that's saying that her life doesn't matter. She's sacrificed her own happiness, and this is cheating. This is and that's doubly painful, I think, for her.
Yeah.
Well,
for us, it was. No, go ahead.
No, go ahead, Natalie.
For us, it was always both things at once. She is, it's not made explicit that she is also sharing these feelings, but suppressing them to the point of.
Her attitude is, if I can't have it or I can't do it, neither can you.
Yes.
Yeah, which is so often, I mean, I've seen that attitude in the past, oftentimes there's this idea that if I had to go through a hardship, then you have to as well, between generations, rather than allowing, allowing a good thing to happen.
Well, yeah, there's, due to the kissing being forbidden, even for those who are married, because when I look at Augene's husband, he lacked affection, but he was also critical. I mean, he was even critical of her new dress. But, the other thing too that I noticed, and I had to go back to really look at it because I love the way you really place this into the storyline, is that her husband was a box maker or cardboard coffin maker. So that reveal set up a very interesting ending to the film. And but then the film contains we know it contains the desire for the human touch. And then in the scene with the couple at the department store, the husband gets angry at his wife, who knows what the law is, but she wanted just to hold his hand, and he got angry about that. So I'm like, okay, he doesn't like it, but because of the simple act of affection, could lead to the possibility of an accidental kiss.
Yes.
So he was like putting up a wall because he's thinking affection equals death, and she was just craving for it.
Yeah. I mean, it's funny because there are many like sort of consequences that we took to like, to their conclusion. So, I mean, people cultivate bad breath for the same reason, that they're afraid that should they have minty breath, that someone
would just jump on them and embrace them, which is what Petulance pretends is that Malaise did to her when she entraps her. And
that was a very tough scene to see somebody stoop that low, knowing you're sentencing someone to death.
Yeah.
So basically, Petulance was the murderer.
Yeah, I mean, she's very vindictive.
Yeah.
It's funny though, because she does terrible things, and yet I have a lot of fondness for Petulance as a character. We're actually developing the short into a feature, and Petulance is one of the characters that we've sort of like expanded upon and worked on the most to really understand why she is the way that she is. And I mean, people always ask us like, who is our favorite character, which is such an impossible question to answer because as writers, you have to love all of your characters.
And they are all parts of you.
Yeah, and you have to be able to identify with all of them. And as terrible as Petulant is, there's also something so human about jealousy. And
she wants to be loved, and she wants to be appreciated, and she wants a place in society like everyone. Angine has that place in society. In many ways, Angine suffers from that because she's not been asked to make a choice. In many ways, our own societies are kind of like Angine. Like, we've had things very, very comfortable, and we haven't had to really stand up and go out onto the streets and protest and make significant changes to our lives that will have negative consequences. And so Angine is very much a metaphor for where, like, Europe and America is right now for us.
Yeah, what I loved is that all three characters were very, very strong. The audience can definitely separate all three together. I really can't wait for the feature because I really want to know the backstory of Petulant, because once you know the backstory on how she is, it's just going to open up a whole incredible story. So I cannot wait. If the feature is made, because I will be standing in line to see it. But in this film, the dinner table scene was very powerful in its meaning. Speaking around one single word, the word kiss, and because a kiss in itself is very powerful, as it ignites so many feelings within a person giving it, but also in the one receiving it. So when I watched the film the first time, I went back a second time, and then when I got to the table scene again, I replayed the table scene, and I noticed that when Angine's face, when she says the word kiss, her face slightly lights up. She knows that just saying the word isn't going to get anybody killed, but it made everybody at that table not just uncomfortable, it scared them.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's one of the reasons why our film is called Two People Exchanging Saliva. It's because in this world, people avoid saying the word kiss because it's like minty toothpaste. It's almost like a gateway drug. Like if you're saying kiss,
because it's so vile and so disgusting that even saying the word is a taboo in and of itself. And yet their whole society is built around suppressing that. And so they actually spend all their time thinking about it. In the same way that in a society like Iran, they think so much about women's virtue that they spend a lot of time thinking about what women could do that isn't virtuous. And so there's a kind of a paradox to that. In all societies that have thought about sexuality this way.
It's funny because when people see this film, they may think, like we had mentioned before, words like silly and absurd or quirky. But then you also said something too, that when you really watch this film, a lot of those things are happening in different ways around the world. And I have interviewed Afghan filmmakers who highlight the lack and the disappearing of women's rights in that country. And when I look at this film and I think of the stories of those in Afghanistan, and women basically they've lost all avenues to education. They now have to be covered from head to toe. They're now invisible in public. They're invisible in private. It's like they don't even exist. And it makes your film so much more profound in its meaning.
Well, yeah, I mean, absolutely. Democracy is an incredibly fragile thing. Like, I think that we think about it, or at least in the past, I think it's become evident that even in the United States, it could disappear. It's not guaranteed. And certainly, like when you look at photos of women in Iran in the 1970s, they were wearing miniskirts. They worked in parliament. They were in positions of power. They were highly educated. It's a 50-year difference, and it's enormous, astronomical. And then at the same time, I mean, there were things that we didn't know about when we were writing this, like that in the 1970s in Brazil, there was a law that was instituted saying that people weren't allowed to kiss in public, and the Brazilians were like, "Hell no!" And they organized a mass demonstration where everyone started kissing publicly, and the law was revoked, which shows you the power of people acting out. And so, I mean, you know, I think that it can appear absurd on the surface, but it's really not so far from our world.
No, not at all. But even one of those at the dinner table, you know, they were discussing what happened at the department store, and one of them said, "Why did she do it in public?" And I paused it and I went, "Okay, let's think about what that person just said. Why did she do it in public?" So then I got to thinking, that was a sign that if done in private, she wouldn't have been sentenced to death. But the law is so strict and so oppressive that there are people like Augene's husband that wouldn't even kiss her in private because of the fear.
Yeah.
I mean, we was in that scene. I was certainly thinking of Alan Turing and the repression of homosexuality in Britain in the 30s and 40s when homosexuality was illegal, and there was this kind of attitude that, oh, it's disgusting, oh, it's strange, but as long as they do it, you know, in a private home and no one catches them and it never becomes public, then that's kind of okay. But it was also a trap because if they knew that people were homosexual, if the government wanted to squash them, they could just walk in the door and catch them at will. And so it's very insidious, and that was very much the inspiration for that dinner party scene.
Yeah. Also, the idea that like these are their friends. They're having, you know, like, and they clearly, that scene actually was originally 6 minutes long, and we cut it down because the film, like we said, we don't come from cinema. This was not a strategic move. We just made the biggest film that we could with the means that we had, which was not actually, as you know, the film looks expensive because of the location, but we were a small team working in an incredibly guerrilla style. And you know, like the film was 52 minutes, and we were neither a feature nor a short, and we had to make a decision. So we became quite brutal. Alex was like, I don't want to make a feature by mistake, you know, because I had proposed that we could have 8-minute long credits and be like the cheapest feature ever made. But Alex was like, no, if we're going to make a feature, let's do it on purpose.
And we wanted to make the best short film that we could, that tells as much story with a beginning, a middle, and an end, where you really connect with the characters and just slice off any sort of excess fat to make it as tight as possible. And we hope that actually, even though it's 36 minutes, that it's 36 minutes that fly by and that really draw you in. And that really feel
you had me at every minute. You know, and the ending scene with all the boxes in the quarry. Okay. Was the rectangular box a metaphor for burying love and affection?
I mean, that's a really interesting question. There are so many reasons why those boxes are in there, from like everything in the film.
The box is definitely a place that you put things in to hide them away and not look at them. And we were certainly thinking about that. In terms of real repression, actually for us, the very, very final shot with the door closing, and there's this ray of light that's cast very film noir onto the corridor of Melez's apartment, and Augene is hidden up the stairwell out of sight.
You're giving away a lot.
Oh, well,
I've already seen it. I've already seen it a couple of times. I know that shot.
So this is a spoiler-filled talk. At the very, very end, the door is closing and that ray of light is becoming smaller and smaller and smaller. And for us, that was very much a metaphor for the extinguishing of a human life, and also the extinguishing of hope and desire, and being extinguished like a little flame in the darkness that's blown out.
Yeah. But but in terms of the boxes, there was also something like a cardboard box. It was such an absurd idea that this designer husband is just so obsessed with this actually incredibly ubiquitous, simple object, but that he's so fastidious and so obsessive over this thing that he considers almost like an artwork, but is actually an instrument of death. And then also the idea that the materials for this are so cheap, and the relationship between that and death as a sort of like
the disdain of the government for the people that they're killing,
and the callousness of like the jettisoning of lives, which, you know, has happened throughout history. I mean, if you think about so many different dictatorships where bodies were thrown from helicopters, mass graves, it's really, I mean, it's not science fiction. It's history. And so, I mean, that dinner party scene was also influenced. My family comes from communist Romania, and the amount of conversations that I heard about, you know, where people fall on different sides of, you know, like there are people that still have nostalgia for communist Romania, which is absurd, because it was a very, you know, it was a very repressive regime, and 1 in like 3 people was an informant. So there's also idea of like, who can you trust? Who is secretly working for the government? And obviously in Anjin's case, it's her husband. So yeah, I mean,
how long did it take to create that ending scene? Because I'm looking at this shot and I'm like, how many boxes? How long did it take you to position just to get the look? And because the shot was very important. And then how many production days did it take to create the whole film?
Well, that is a very interesting question, because we did not have the location of the ravine set until the last 2 days of shooting. So during the weekend, we shot the film, and as we were approaching it was our last day.
Yeah.
Our last day, that weekend, we drove to that ravine, scanned it with our phones, did the pre-visualization, put all the boxes virtually where they would be, and then told our team.
The idea was that they would position everything the day before.
Yeah.
But we arrived the morning of,
and there were no boxes.
And so Alex and I and our entire production design team, which is small, like a few people and some interns, were all running around, and we're like, we're just moving these boxes. I'm putting them ad hoc, like anywhere.
You were meant to follow the plan.
I was not following the plan. I was running around and just putting them wherever they looked good.
Yeah.
And it was, you know, like, you know, there's chaos on any film set, so it's not so unusual. But it was an hour before we started shooting, and
it was an image that we had in mind when we were writing.
Yeah,
we thought, oh, cardboard boxes are actually very cheap. You could get a lot of very big cardboard boxes and create an incredible image very economically and very simply. And so we kind of that's our sort of visual art background. We're used to doing things with just a couple of people, and you do the makeup yourself, you do the sound yourself. It was very much that kind of like art school / film school spirit that was involved in that creative decision.
But with a lot of precision.
Yes.
Well,
but, I mean, yeah.
No, go ahead, Natalie.
No, I mean, throughout the film, there are just so many decisions that were made, both aesthetically, but also practically. Like, so, you know, we had many reasons for using the cardboard boxes, but one of the first was like, this is something we could afford to do. And the same thing goes for why the film is in black and white. I mean, there were aesthetic reasons
and conceptual
reasons, which we can tell you about.
Well, I was going to ask you, because let me tell you how profound and how beautiful, because you went black and white. So when the film started, my first thought was, oh my gosh, what a look. It was, and as the film was moving on, and then and with the shots of Argine, it just screams pure French romantic cinema. So I was sitting there, I was watching it, and then somebody came into the office and I paused it. and they looked at my screen and they go, "What in the world is that?" I mean, just having a paused frame of that film made someone go, "Wow." Now, here's the cool thing about the black and white. And now I'm understanding why this became so beautiful. Both of you come from art.
Mm-hmm.
The color palette of the black and white was very portrait-like. And I'm guessing that was done on purpose.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, there were many influences for the black and white. There were, filmic influences. People always ask us if it was the French New Wave, and there are many influences that like we're not even aware of because they're in us, So like the French New Wave is in us. It wasn't something we were consciously thinking of.
But coming from visual art, we think very compositionally about the frame. And when you make a drawing as a child, you make a drawing in pencil and charcoal. Black and white is graphic and simple, and you create a frame with light. And especially in this film, I don't know if you noticed, but in almost every scene, the camera is either showing a mirror or shooting through a mirror at certain points. It's very much a film about reflections and surfaces and observing people from a distance.
Surveillance.
And that kind of speaks also to the black and white, because for us, the black and white is a bit like surveillance, not like a surveillance camera, but in the sense that by stripping out color, it kind of shows you what the essential is, the human beings in this world. Color can distract, and it's almost like black and white is like an X-ray. And one of the things we realized was when we were photographing the location as we were location scouting, we realized that in black and white, this department store, its architecture started to reveal itself to us, which are these large marble columns and this hexagonal lobby, and then these big stairs. And originally, in the 1930s, when this building was built, it was a bank. And so it's a department store, but it also has the bones of a sort of like slightly authoritarian, institutional feeling. And the same was true of everywhere we shot in Paris. It kind of reduced things down to the essential, the architecture, and also these characters who kind of glow in the film thanks to Alexandre's cinematography.
Well, with color has a tendency to hide detail. And black and white black and white as a portrait, you see more detail because of the lack of color, and it actually comes out to be more lifelike, and it really is just more beautiful. And that's what I noticed about this film when it was in black and white. And my favorite shots are the ones that were where the framing of a character and it's a close-up. I mean, you could turn those into portraits and you could stare at them all day because they are gorgeous.
Yeah, Alex has this theory that great actors have big eyes. And Luàna, who plays Malaise, has really big eyes, and she really works, amazingly, in close up, but also from afar because you can read her visual expression, her facial expression just from her eyes.
Speaking of close-ups, for us, we kind of think of the film as like two sides of like a little mountain, like almost like the beginning where Angine and Malaise meets, and Malaise is trying to convince Angine that she should be interested in her. And there's this moment right at the tip of the film when Angine kind of tips over and she starts to love her. And that's the scene when they're applying makeup. And at that moment, the whole scene is happening just here on their faces. It's like an extreme close-up. And it's like the whole scene is taking place just across two women's faces with the brushing of the makeup, and it's very sort of Bergman-esque in that one moment.
That's true. I mean, we're also just like, we're in their bubble.
Yes.
So for a moment, we're really with them in their love, far from like the world that's all around them. This is very dangerous.
They're still in a very public space, but they forget themselves.
Well,
it's very important to do so.
One of the things that I noticed in that scene, and I went back to replay it because I was trying to make sure that I saw what I saw. When Malaise has the makeup brush in her hand, And the very last thing she does is she does this little playful flick of the brush upon Augene's nose. And I went, just a little flirty movement there. And I thought, oh, how perfect that was.
Yeah, that was Luàna. That's not scripted. Yeah.
Yeah, I just love it. Now tell me about the music score, because it was absolutely incredible.
The music was, we just love music and score and film, and which is very like un-European of us. Alex and I are a mixture. So I'm Romanian American. Alex is French, Indian, English American. I mean, born in France, half French, half Indian, but has lived all over. And our styles, I say a little bit like, us as in terms of our nationality, our style is very European art house meets American Hollywood-esque films. Like we inhabit both styles at once. And
so that we were thinking a lot of that with the music. We really wanted to have a strong choice. The music is almost half scored by our composer Bobak Lotfipur, and then the other half are pieces of music from different eras, like Pergolesi was a Baroque piece of music, to Benjamin Britten, to at the very end Caroline Shaw. And Bobak's music is very much in conversation also with those pieces, using pizzicato string and very discordant violin noises to create a lot of atmosphere. It's not just underscoring, it's kind of a character in the story. I mean, you see that in the very beginning of the story when the box is thrown over the ravine and you have the title credits and you hear this crescendo of violins. You know exactly what kind of tone of story you're in.
Yeah, but we also thought kind of the whole film as a piece of music. So there's a sort of progression, and we thought a lot about it. It was a tricky thing for us because we were balancing, like, this is not a feature film, but it's it is what we made it, and we actually ended up working with this amazing music editor. We didn't have a budget to work with her at all. She is an icon named Susanna Peric. She's from Croatia, but she's been living in the States for a long time, and she's worked on The Silence of the Lambs, Big,
Barbie,
all the way to Barbie, and every iconic film you can think of. And she had found our film through a friend, and she knew that we had a lot of music, and that we were trying to make sure that we didn't overload the film. And she came in and gave us, and worked with us and gave us some advice. And it was just, because everything that we did on this film, a lot of it we did for the first time. So it was a huge, steep learning curve. We feel so lucky.
I've got a question. So I'm told that you have a very interesting story about this film, which is 36 minutes long, and that did you have a difficult time getting it into film festivals in the beginning?
I mean, it didn't take us that long, but it's kind of like, this is a weird analogy, but when you are trying to get pregnant,
this is a very strange analogy. But where are you going with this?
Every month that goes by that you don't get pregnant is an extremely stressful month. And it was the same thing.
Maybe to further the analogy.
This is weird.
Maybe friends or family are saying, maybe you'll never get pregnant. Maybe it's too late. Maybe it's too long.
Yeah.
Yes.
And it didn't actually take us that long to get into a film festival. We got very lucky with Telluride and with Barry Jenkins, who took, who fell in love with our film. He has a love of French cinema. And I actually rewatched Moonlight recently, and I found that there were some interesting parallels between you wouldn't think about it on its surface, but there are some interesting parallels. Obviously, both queer love stories, also told in 3 chapters. And so we did get lucky, but at the beginning, no shorts distributor wanted to take a chance on our film, because a lot of film festivals have a 30-minute cutoff, and we were at 36 minutes, and we were asked if we could go shorter. We tried. We cut out Angine's husband from the film, which did not get us under 30 minutes. It got us to 32, and at the end of the day, we had lost something pivotal to the film, which was the comparison. Yeah, the comparison, the contrast to Melez. Like, why does Angine want to be with Melez? You need to have the contrast. And so at the end of the day, we said, okay, we're not going to break our film. We're going to make the best film possible, and it will find it will find its audience, hopefully.
Yes.
we just felt like if we just make the best thing possible.
So what did Telluride? So what did getting into Telluride do for the film?
I mean, it was huge. I mean, for us, first off, it validated that we had made something good, because there was definitely, it's such an unusual film that, I think even our producers are like, did we make something good? I'm not sure. and there was that. It was also my birthday on the day that we found out that we had gone into Telluride. Alex had kind of fallen into a deep depression because, he was just like, have we just worked on this for the last year? For it to never see the light of day. And I was always in a couple, one person has to be able to be the positive one. And so that was my role at that point. And I was just like, I think this is going to work out. I don't know where. And then we had the most magical beginning, because Telluride is like a gem of a film festival. It's so intimate. It's all cinephiles. They say it's not industry, but everyone that's there is someone that is incredible, is a titan of their discipline, of their field. And so it was such an incredible launching pad. And then we went to AFI and we won the grand jury prize, which I remember we saw so many films at AFI. Alex went to all of the shorts. I went to some of them.
Beautiful films.
And he was like, there's no world in which we're going to win this. I mean, we weren't even thinking about it. And then when we were sick and we were in bed and we got the email that we had won the grand jury prize and we needed to get dressed up and go and get our photos taken. And it was just, it was magical. And then our third film festival was our European premiere, and it was at Clermont-Ferrand. And again, there, we had never been. We had heard the festival was incredible. It is one of the most astounding film festivals I've ever been to. Just so much work and dedication to
such
shorts.
A huge dedicated audience. The film plays in theaters of 1,400, 900, 1,000.
Yeah, amphitheaters for cinema. And they're always full every day, whether it's Monday at 9 a.m. or Saturday at 7 p.m. Every single screening is full. It has the most 173,000 people come to this small little mountain village in France. And we won the audience prize there. And that was just the greatest validation, because it's one thing to win, a jury prize from 3 people, industry people, and it's another thing to win from a body of people that, that oftentimes are choosing something that's that is sort of a feel-good film. Our film is not that feel-good. And to see
it's very touching that people around the world have met and fallen in love and felt very tenderly towards these characters and laughed with them and cried with them. Not things one might hope, but never ever expect as a filmmaker.
Well, this film makes me forget about all the feel-good ones.
Oh, well, thank you. But no, I mean, we didn't expect anything. And after that third film festival, I mean, we'd already had such a magical ride that I told Alex, if no one else accepts this film, then we've already done everything we could have possibly ever wanted to. And then a year later, the film is still playing in film festivals. It played at Sun Valley last night, and and now it's been distributed. It's on the New Yorker. Anyone can watch it. And yet it's still programmed in film festivals until April next year.
And people are still coming across it.
Wow, that's incredible.
And so I'm so thankful for programmers, for audiences that have embraced the film, that have taken the time, because, I think that, when you see 36 minutes, it can feel a little daunting because it's certainly more than most people bargain for when they ask for a short film. But I we made it with a lot of heart. and I think people feel that.
Well,
so.
you know what? Here's the great thing. Your film alone could very well help open up the door to other shorts that are longer than 20 minutes, because so many of those films get turned down by film festivals because they're all trying to, create their block, in a certain amount of time. Because usually there's what, 5, maybe 6 films in a block. And so that
Yeah.
brings out an average of what? Maybe an hour, so an hour block. But there are short films out there that are longer, and I've seen some very good ones that are over the 25-minute mark. But this film, oh my gosh! I mean,
Well, it's certainly something that we think a lot about. We love the short film medium, and one of the things that's fantastic about short films is that filmmakers can explore and experiment and learn. And it seems strange and paradoxical to say that short film is a medium where you can do anything that you want as long as it's under 15 minutes. Because is that really exploration? What if you want to tell the story of 2 characters and switch perspectives between them? And I certainly, as someone who's gone to a lot of short film festivals and loves the medium, I really like a block where there's a film that's 25 minutes and then there's a film that's 8 minutes, and you have a little balance to things. Nobody wants to really be in 31-minute films, as it were.
no, I get it. I'm not that big into the micro shorts.
Yes.
Give me a film that's 8 minutes to maybe 20 for the most part. But I think I've seen this year, not counting this one, I think I saw 2 shorts that were over 20 minutes, and they were okay. This film, I pray the gods are in your favor, because I want to see this film that when it is announced or it's introduced after the month of March, that the word Oscar is in front of it.
Oh, thank you so much.
I mean, either from shortlisted, nominated, or winner, either way, I want to see the word Oscar in front of this film, because it deserves it in more than 110%. Because this film, oh my gosh, and I'm not going to mention, I can't mention any names, but before we started this interview, an Academy member told me, he goes, "Have you seen this film, Two People Exchanging Saliva?" And I laughed and I said, "Yeah, I've already watched it twice." And even he thought it was the most stunning thing. And we were batting around a bunch of film names, going, talking back and forth, but it was your film that captured, the eyeballs, the ears, the heart, and that's what matters. And your film puts the word cinema and cinematic.
Well, thank you so much. Thank you. Yeah, I mean, it means so much when you've worked for so long and so hard on something for people to respond to it and for it to find its audience, and we so much appreciate it.
No,
well, I'm on team Two People Exchanging Saliva. I'm on that team. And ladies and gentlemen, this film, Two People Exchanging Saliva, is about a society where kissing is punishable by death. People pay for things by receiving slaps to the face. And one of the lead characters, Ajin, well, she's an unhappy woman who shops compulsively in a department store. But there she becomes fascinated by a playful salesgirl. Now, despite the prohibition of kissing, the two become close, raising the suspicions of a very jealous colleague. But there are very few films that leave me speechless, and this is one of them. It is one of the most original storylines, one of the most beautiful films cinematically, and so engaging you want to watch it over and over again, despite that it's 36 minutes long. Now, the black and white visuals are so absolutely stunning. They are very portrait-like, almost thinking back as if you were seeing Audrey Hepburn in a French film. It enhances the emotion of every character, and the close-ups of each main character makes you feel like you could look into their soul. Now, there is something the French can do better than any other filmmaker, and that's to make a film with such romance, even if one is a forbidden to kiss. You still feel the romance in the cinematography. And yes, the French do it better, and Two People Exchanging Saliva is proof that we need more French cinema in our lives. And Natalie and Alex, I want to thank you so much for the honor and the pleasure to watch the most beautifully stunning, spectacular film that I've seen this year.
Oh,
Thank you so much. We so much enjoyed talking to you.
Yes, and we're honored to be here with you.
Yeah. Thank you.
Well, I can say this. Much success and good luck to both of you and your whole team on your Oscar journey.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, and let me tell you this. This is one of the films that I can tell you that you can watch right now. So Two People Exchanging Saliva is available on the New Yorker's website right now. Go watch this film, because I can tell you this, when you see it, you're going to be taking that link and you're going to share it with all of your friends to have them watch one of the most spectacular films of 2025. And who knows, maybe come 2026, like I said before, we're going to hear about this film being introduced with the word Oscar right in front of it. And that is something I want to see. But on Oscar night, it's something that I want to hear. So, ladies and gentlemen, you can catch all of the Bond on Cinema interviews at bondoncinema.com. Check out our Prime show, our YouTube channel, and yes, you can listen to us on Spotify, iTunes, Audible, and more. And remember, you're either going to see me at the movies or from the red carpet.